We're good? Okay, so in about 2 minutes, you guys are gonna do this. Christina is looking for pens for you. But welcome in. We are in a workshop today to understand what your attachment style is and then how that shows up in your relationships, your day-to-day relationships, and your relationships with Christ. So are you guys all in the right workshop?
Okay. My name is Silvia, and I am very blessed to be here with you guys.
Even if you're not in psychology, everybody's kind of heard about attachment, right? Attachment styles, correct? And I think this topic is a little hot right now because people really want to know about themselves. So how we relate to one another, how we were raised, through words, through gestures, so even silence, right? I'm a wordy person. My husband's a pretty quiet person. So this can either bring healing to our relationships or it can deepen our wounds, depending. So at the heart of our connections, though, is the way we relate to each other, the concept of attachment. So it shapes the way we communicate, the way we express ourselves, whether we realize it or not. So it's a very powerful tool. It's a psychological framework that helps us to see how our early bonds with our parents or whoever raised us influence not just our inner worlds, but the way we present ourselves day to day through our body language, for example. And I'm going to give you some examples. So, Orthodox Christians, we know that true healing and true transformation of our relationships goes way beyond clinical insights, way past me. We believe that our understanding of humanity is rooted in Christ. And it's foundational to how we communicate, how we present ourselves, and even in the way we dress. Okay? How do you show up in life? How do you show up in your day-to-day in such a secular, non-Christian too? So I'm going to ask people to read for me. I did this. Where'd the techie guy go? He did something to share, and now it's not working, the slides. So we'll wait for Carol. But all right. So the objectives are up here on the slide. And what we're going to do is explore the relationship between body language and attachment style. Look at my body language. How are you guys reading me? Casual. Confident. Anyone else?
You're not open to shaking hands.
I'm not open to shaking hands. Actually, I'm slightly nervous. I never get used to this, no matter how many times I do it. And I can talk about attachment in my sleep, but I still need these as my security blanket, right? So, do psychotherapists, medical professionals, I'm sure probably half of you in this room are, because we're Coptic, right? Clergy, deacons. Do we analyze body language? Absolutely, we analyze body language. Body language offers very vital clues to help a client or a patient in a myriad of conversations about their lives, their experiences, and who and what comes with it. So, I need to, my slides are not moving. He did something with the share and then it's not shared. So it's an important part of being able to read or see a client and what they may not say. You enter the room. So after COVID, during COVID, we had to go virtual. My discipline, we had to go virtual. So against it. The way if I have a couple, how they kind of just, snub each other, or their hand gestures, or their facial expression. I thought so much was going to be lost. Now everybody wants to do virtual, including. Came in to share.
Not gonna work with this. It has to. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. I promise you, I'll show you the slides, but, so, as a psychotherapist, I've seen my fair share of body language cues that fill a book, some hilarious ones too. If we have time, I'll share them. But one particularly memorable session involved a client who was a very successful executive. I need a volunteer. You're gonna take my cues for body language. Come have a seat. Thank you. Oh, you got me. She's being nice to me. You get a piece of chocolate. Okay. So you're gonna retype. Alright. So, you're a very successful executive, okay? You're convinced you're a master at disguising your emotions. You sat across from me. Your posture was very rigid. Okay? You're too sweet. Arms folded tightly, poker face that could rival any card player. Despite your best efforts to appear stoic, your feet are tapped in your house. This is a sure sign of underlying anxiety, right? Keep tapping away. So I gently point that out to you. Feet are tapping, and you stop. Only to start tapping your fingers. Okay. The real kicker came when you start shifting in your seat, very uncomfortably, and you start avoiding eye contact with me. Okay? And then you start glancing at the door to contemplate escape. So uncomfortable. So I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly because the sheer irony of someone trying so hard to conceal their feelings, they're broadcasting them like a bright neon sign, right? Doesn't have to say anything. I can read her. She's anxious and she's uncomfortable. So in the end, we're gonna have a good laugh about it. And you eventually open up about what was really bothering you. But it goes to show that sometimes the body speaks much louder than words. Have to pay attention. Even when we're trying our best to keep it quiet. So I'm gonna read you the slides since we can't share them. But then everybody get around. So the body language described will suggest various aspects of attachment styles. 4 attachment styles. Sorry about the slides. So, anxious attachment. What are you guys thinking?
You're anxiously attached.
There's no wrong answers. Say it again.
Needs a lot of reassurance.
Needs a lot of reassurance. Yes. Heard something else. What else?
Lack of self-confidence.
Lack of self-confidence. How does that show up in your relationships? When you're anxiously attached.
We need to keep it continuously in a contact with the other person.
You're needy.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're needy, right? You're anxious. Why is he calling me back? Or those dreaded 3 little things on the
Sitting there waiting for a response.
but and it doesn't come, but then it appears again, and then it doesn't come, right? You're reading into it, you're overthinking, and then those thoughts become those fears. You're anxious. So the nervous tapping of her fingers, along with the frequent glances at the door, suggests underlying anxiety. Okay? Anxious attachment involves a fear of abandonment and a heightened sensitivity to perceived threats to the relationship. So her restless behavior, signs of discomfort, this reflects possible rejection. So either based on this or based on your experience, the example that we had, can somebody tell me what you know of an anxious attacher? You know that they're kind of predispositioned in their childhood, correct? What do you think?
Fear. If you're an anxious attacher, share. You're gonna get to know your styles.
What do you think? You know how I learned how to swim? I'm the daughter of immigrants. How did I learn how to swim? And what did he say? Right? So
I've developed a fear of being too far from the shore, for example. I get anxious. Even though I know how to swim.
did it? Hey, thank you. Okay, so these are our objectives. What we're gonna learn today. We're gonna explore the relationship between body language and attachment style. You're gonna evaluate your own attachment styles, and then we're gonna explore the growth for each one. And maybe I'll give you homework. Body language. This is so important, and most people don't pay attention to it. I don't know if anyone here has teenagers or maybe teenage siblings. They are awful with their eye contact. They don't know how to look you in the face because they're down like this all the time and they're nervous. So I have a senior going into college. I'm like, you have to like practice talking to a human being in their eyes for your college interviews. And they're all like that, him and all his friends. And I mean, we can like all we want, but I think it's the distractions. Just don't relate to others the way I relate, the way I. So, with that said, this is the anxious attacher. Can someone read that for me really loud? I'm gonna pick on someone. I'm gonna just throw out names. Sarah, thank you.
The challenge for this individual is to learn how to give others the space they ask for, even when the request is communicated through others' behavior rather than their words. The learning curve for the anxious attachers is to see others' actions as a form of communication. In an ideal world, people's words and actions would match, but that is not always the case. For the anxious attacher, it's important to learn how to self-soothe and manage the fears that surface when distance exists in their relationship. As they do this, they are free to give others the space they need rather than bridging the gap to resolve their fears.
Okay. So it reminds me of this experiment where they did on rats. So one they starved, the second rat they fed very consistently, and the third rat they fed intermittently. The highest level of cortisol was in which rat? Starved one, the well-fed one, or the one that didn't know what to expect? Yeah. Okay. Because the starved one's like, all right, it's a wrap for me. And the other one's like, oh, I'll get my next meal. But the other one was anxious. Am I going to eat? Am I not? Like, what's happening? Very similar to the way the anxious attacher might feel, right? Waiting for that text back. Something that simple. The avoidant attacher. This individual feels most comfortable with space because they believe it buffers them from fear of intimacy or being taken advantage of in some way. And I love to put the path for growth as well. Their path of growth includes connecting with themselves, really understanding, and more specifically their feelings and their needs. As they acknowledge what they think, what they feel, what they need, they can learn to vocalize this stuff to their friends or to their partners rather than distancing themselves to self-protect. Okay? So I am married to an avoidant person. Wonderful human being, but he doesn't like conflict. So when he sees my anxious style come up, what does he do? Turns away. Doesn't want to argue. He's self-protecting. That kind of stuff makes him very uncomfortable. And this is the disorganized attacher. If someone would like to read this. This side. This side's the winner. Go ahead. You're looking at me. Yep.
The way for this individual to hate their really complicated relationship to distance is to normalize their emotional experience, disorganize that nature, experience a lot of experience and confusion internally because they often feel the tug to move in several directions at the same time. If they can acknowledge and normalize their fears of disconnection as well as their fears of intimacy, they can feel more grounded as they see
Decipher the best course of
this
action.
course of action.
Thank you. Okay, so the shifting in their seats uncomfortably, avoidance of eye contact can also indicate that they're dismissive avoidant, which is disorganized. So they're just plain confused, depending on the situation. It involves minimizing the importance of a relationship and trying to suppress their emotions so they could stay autonomous. Right? All of this is the way we protect ourselves, what we learned, and it's rooted in our childhood, in the homes that we grew up in. So overall, a client's body language hints at a very complex dynamic within their style, their attachment style, possibly involving, you could have a combination of avoidant, you could have a combination of anxious, whatever. In therapy, though, we explore these patterns and uncover like the wounds, which leads to healing. That's why we have to talk about it. That's why I have to show up, right? So distancing by avoiding eye contact sometimes reflects this pattern more than the avoidant. Okay? So I've been thinking a lot about the words distance and space. You hear it in all the different styles, right? As it relates to our relationship. So depending on your style, whether it's avoidant, anxious, disorganized, or the one we all want,
Sure, and there's a way to get there.
you probably relate to these words very differently. Distance and space. So a few years ago, I read the book Attached by Amir Levine. Did anyone read that? It's an excellent book. And I never forgot this very simple but profound illustration he used to communicate the natural and necessary rhythms we all need in our relationship. So he describes an interaction between a mother and her child at a playground.
What do they call it?
By Amir Levine. Child's running around with her friends at the playground, swinging from the monkey bars, flying down the slide, chasing her friends. You can imagine it, right? Just set the scene in your head. And after a while, she runs over to her mom to give her a flower. Mom's sitting on the bench, probably, just watching her, looking at her phone, whatever. Everybody's happy. So, and then before you know it, the child goes, oh my gosh, I gotta go, Mom. I gotta keep playing. Okay? Runs back to the playground for more adventure. And I thought like this perfectly illustrates the balance of closeness and distance. Cure, right? And how it's so necessary for a healthy relationship. If we slow down these interactions, we're going to see a few vital elements between the mother and the daughter, for example. Closeness and distance, security
And joy.
and intimacy and autonomy. It's very possible, right? This is what secure attachment looks like. The daughter feels free to step away from her mother and play with her friends because she feels confident about returning to a very attentive, very secure mom. She knows mom will be. By the way, if you're a helicopter mom or a former helicopter mom, this hurts attachment style, right? Because then that child grows up thinking they're not competent enough and develop insecurity. So if we circle back to the words distance and space, we can see how this mother-daughter experienced that. And it's good for them because those who grew up with parents or caregivers who did not offer this consistent, secure, supportive, warm attachment, they're going to experience distance and space very much. So I want, as you're listening to these words, because in the interest of time, I'm kind of painting with very broad strokes. Just imagine home and how mom and dad were, or if it was just mom, or if it was just dad, whatever it may be, how home was, and how that shows up now, okay? Anxious attacher is triggered by physical or emotional distance. They don't like it, okay? It activates their fear of abandonment, rejection. So when they sense a partner or a friend, even just a friend, hasn't called me back, hasn't reciprocated, they distance themselves. They have a difficult time tolerating this. Very difficult time. They show up as needy, right? So one of their main protest strategies is to emotionally distance themselves to self-protect, to regain a sense of control and independence in this relationship. You guys with me so far? This organized attachment, the confused one, complicated, very complicated. They internally, they fear the disconnection that distance can stir up. They know, they're worried about it, while also wanting to withdraw because they fear being emotionally engulfed will swallow them up. So they're confused. Secure attachment has a grounded relationship to any physical or emotional distance. In other words, they're not immune to that fear. None of us are. But they're mentally and physically equipped to relate to those fears in a very grounded way. So they don't exert control to remove themselves, like the anxious one, or indulge in the space like the avoided one. Rather, they respect. Okay? And that currently exists in the relationship, even if they don't agree with it. So when I have a couple, I teach that, believe it or not, many of us have very opposing attachment styles. The anxious attacher needs to have a sense of security with her avoidant attacher. So I teach the avoidant attacher to say simply to her or him, how can I show up for you? And I teach the anxious attacher to say to her avoidant husband or wife, what do you need from me? Right? You know what? I need space. Can we circle back before dinner? But that person has to circle back. This is how we build trust and dependability. So far, so good? Questions? Because we're gonna evaluate our styles now. You all got a quiz. A pen? Okay. You didn't get one? I'd like for you to.
Anyone that actually seeks their action, or do we all have a spectrum of no one that can actually seek their action?
Some people are secure. No such thing. No one's immune to not having some kind of fear or wound. But this simply teaches you what your style is, a little bit more about yourself, how you show up in relationships, why you attract certain people. As I feel like the majority here are single, right? Am I correct in that? I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I was here last year. There's a lot of singles. And when you learn about yourself and how you show up and what your strengths are and what your areas of to grow your blind spots, that's the path to secure attachment. Okay? But answer this very honestly. This is about you. Yep. You didn't get one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. My goodness, it's a whole house here. Attachment is hot, I guess. I'll have enough copies for the next one. Do you guys see the, yeah, right here. Anyone need a pen?
Oh, yeah. No, you don't.
Page 2 is like on the back of the first page, the front. It's double-sided. Don't skip that. Yeah? Want to take the quiz?
Everybody here, Dan? Now you're the avoidant. You need a pen?
Yes.
These are the late ones.
The scoring, are you adding up all those lines?
Yeah, it's actually a total. I also gave you some resources on there. If you want to check it out later.
Because classes we avoided.
Oh.
I'm thinking.
I'm doing good.
Is there relationships that have very extreme values and rules, relationships for the tragics as well? And really not. Oh, like, not only, not.
Anything in your best friend, your boyfriend, your dog. That's what it has to do with
There.
Are you guys counting?
Yeah.
Sure. There's so much there. I heard that. When you use it up. I mean, sure, but it's obviously. Something familiar there. My kids, every time someone goes I'm just like, I agree, I just like. Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to.
So you put that, you need some more. I know. Who volunteers? Because I have candy. Yes.
Just to clarify, the items you're basically adding.
You're adding total.
So it's a question, actually. That's your.
Yep. He's the anxious one?
I
Oh, but you're the avoidant. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else? You volunteered, so you get to pay for everybody. Who else volunteered? Yeah, well, yeah, so did Sarah. I'm giving out everything here.
Oh, yes, but only this work,
Yeah.
and the other ones don't.
We'll answer it after, okay? But there's a time. Yeah. Yeah, total. Are you guys almost done? Who wants to share? You get 2 pieces of chocolate. And 20 minutes with Dana. All right, I feel like everybody's almost done, right? If you're done, raise your hand, because I don't want to interrupt.
Actually, very good, going for it. For sure. It's diagnosed.
All right, so in the interest of time, you could still tally up. What do you guys think of this? Sorry? It was cool? Did you discover anything about yourself, Morristown?
Yeah, I'm a different style than
Different style than what you thought. Can you tell us more? Avoidant. Anyone else want to share? Okay, let's share.
I got pretty nice ones.
It makes sense. So I think things that trigger or hurt you, you can become a little disorganized. Okay, but this is a very, very good one. And I also gave you some more resources on the third page to get to know a little bit. So for example, for my avoidant attachers, my poor husband, I always use him as a example, and part of his avoidance is privacy. So I'm like, and I publicize him all the time. So there's NDAs coming up. So for example, he didn't even realize that being an avoidant was anything but great. It was like heroic. Like, I'm cool under fire. I don't argue. There's nothing wrong with it. He's so classically avoidant that he didn't think there was anything wrong with avoidant, let alone know what avoidant even was, right? It's not on his radar. So he grew up thinking, it's better to have low expectations so no one lets you down. Can anyone relate to that, right? And it was kind of like a strategy that's through life, through adulthood. I don't expect anything of you. I will do for you. I will do everything for you, but I take that on in everything, whether it's work, whether it's marriage, whether it's anything, right? So you have a hard time delegating when you take it all on. And it's high burnout because he feels I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to do it right. So no one lets me down and we're cool. We stay cool, right? That's a tough way to live. And he married this secure, sometimes disorganized attacher who's extroverted for a reason, right? There was something about his strengths and my weaknesses, and my strengths and his weaknesses that were complementary. Okay? So if all of this resonates with you, there's a way to grow from this, no matter what your style is. I know that a lot of you don't want to share because it is personal, right? But we're going to talk about how do we grow. So we all grew up in a human household, mom, dad, kid, whoever. We had imperfectly secure attachment styles. Okay? We grew up as we all are, Orthodox, right? And the first church we had was our home. And that is the path towards secure attachment. So I'm not going to just tell you, I'm not going to stand here and say the reason and the answer is God. That is not why. That is why you are not securely attached. It's why you're fearful or anxious. It's not true. You have to experience God. There's a difference. We are taught that this salvific life, right, in Orthodoxy and Christianity, is we take part in the sacraments. Yes. We receive communion. But we go further than that. We're part of the community, right? We all have the same values. We're here together for a reason, to learn about faith. But orthodoxy is not enough alone without orthopraxy. Have to practice it. But we can't just check off boxes. So this little girl said, you know, when I pray in my room at night, I told my parents that I don't really feel God there. Mom and dad were like, so what do you mean? What do you do? Like, here's some holy oil. What do you mean you don't feel God? Of course, when you pray, you're connecting with God. She's like, I don't feel like he's there. And I said, why don't you feel like he's there? She goes, I want someone in there with skin on. She wanted to connect somehow. So I said, you know, a servant in the church, her father of confession, they can serve as a conduit between her and growing closer to God. There's this beautiful quote.
That's my favorite, one of my favorite.
By Madeline L'Engle. She's a writer. I'm gonna try not to mess it up. So it's gonna come to me. We don't gain people by loudly discrediting them or by disrespecting them. That's not how we show them who Christ is, but rather by showing them a light that's so lovely that they want with all their hearts to know the source of it. How do you show up? How do you show up?
How do you show up here? That's what we embody, right? So, your body language, the way you present yourself, the way you look at the other person, are you engaging? This is all part of our style, and it also shows the rhythm of our relationship with Christ. And then
I like to give you guys.
you get the time.
Who wants to read the path for growth for this attachment style, for the anxious attacher? You get chocolate.
See,
You can't see it? Okay. So in the front, thank you.
Changes the pattern. The challenge for this individual is to learn how to give others space to ask for, even when the request is communicated through others' behavior rather than their own words. The learning curve for the anxious attacher is to see others' actions as a form of communication. For an anxious attacher, it's important to learn how to self-soothe and manage the fears that surface when this is the relationship. As they do this, they are free to give others the space they need rather than bridging the gap with their fears.
Do you see how there's a path for growth for the anxious?
Can anyone give me examples? How you think that could help? What you could do to become less staring at your phone with those three little dots in the bubble?
What do you guys think? What's the path for growth for an anxious attacher? Therapy? Socialize more? So you're telling me an anxious attacher should socialize more? Can you tell me more?
yeah, she's, he practice more communication.
Okay. That could work for the avoidant attacker. More experience, okay.
Learn to be safe in their own science.
Remember the words distance, closeness? We have to learn how to pivot to the other side of that. Right? That distance is not necessarily rejection. So what does that look like? Phone down. Turn it off. Find something else to do. Okay? I'm looking at, don't worry, anxious attacher.
Why not anxious?
Said the anxious attacher.
When you get, I think back at, let's say you're looking at 3 dots, you looking at it is not gonna change anything. It's not gonna make any sooner. So just upset the fact that this is something that you can't control, so don't focus on what we can't control. It is like be present in.
How's that gonna work out for you? Thanks. Lovely words. And I love good words. 100%. Don't focus on what you can't control, right? Be present. How?
So, for example, you're hanging out with a bunch of friends.
Okay.
Since the morning.
Yep.
So you're dating someone or something and you see 3 dots, instead of being distracted I think.
You're welcome. Pass it down. Instead of being instructor, oh,
Instead of being. Again, instead of being distracted and focused on, like the three dots. Engage in the conversation, be present in the hangout that you're a part of. That's if you want to look at it, I'm like, if it's something that you need to look at, you can look at it. If wait, you can just look at it whenever you have a chance. The practice makes it perfect. It's not gonna come easy.
100%. It's not come easy, right? So we're taught that our thoughts become our beliefs. Our beliefs become our actions, and our actions become our behavior. Stuck in this triangle, right? That's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, in 5 seconds. So it comes with practice. If you have a negative mindset, you have to start focusing on the positive. Maybe they're busy. It's okay. Maybe I'll check it tomorrow. We're talking about the text from him or her, right? Let it go. The more you keep practicing, the more it will sink in. You have the power to rewire your thoughts. It's by practice. That's the beauty of the mind. There's the neuroplasticity. Use plastic, amiable, it's been changed, okay? Practice makes perfect. Thank you for sharing that, okay? Avoid an attacker. Someone read, nice and loud. Someone on this side. And thank you. He got up.
The individual feels most comfortable with space because they believe it buffers them from fears of intimacy or being taken advantage of in some way. Their path of growth includes connecting with themselves and more specifically with their feelings and needs. As they acknowledge what they think, feel, need, they can learn to vocalize these to their friends and their partners rather than distancing themselves to self-protect.
Okay. We're gonna take my husband as an example.
How did he grow from just shutting down to learning how to express his needs? With me, the anxious attacher. Because I had to learn how to respect that space. I had to learn that when I thought he was checked out, he was actually checking in. He needed to process things and think about it and give me more of a wise, very measured, he's a very measured person, answer, right? Where I have like emotional diarrhea of the mouth when I'm upset. And I want to talk about it right now, but he can't. So it's a dance and we have to respect that for each other. He's not checked out, he's checking in, and I need to chill out. Right? Have to grow.
Disorganized attachers.
The way for this individual to uncomplicate their typically complicated relationship to distance is to normalize their emotional experience. Disorganized attachers experience a lot of dissonance and confusion internally because they often feel the tug to move in 2 separate directions at the same time. If they can acknowledge and normalize their fears of disconnection as well as their fears of intimacy, they can feel more grounded as they decipher the best course of action.
So the good news is that no matter how much we struggle with distance and space, we can grow. We can heal to experience more security. We can do it, okay? I wanted to read this before this workshop, but I didn't have a chance to. But so far, so good. I didn't finish it. Attached to God by Crispin. I recommend this one too, although I didn't read the whole thing. Unless he takes like a turn to like 7th circle of hell, which I doubt, I will recommend it.
What's 2 so far? Because I know we're almost done.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is everyone tapping towards like 12 tab or something? Is that always mean that?
What do you guys think? If I'm constantly, only if he does
All
it.
the time.
But if I'm like this, like the whole time I'm sitting here, am I relaxed?
So that's fine or no?
I'm asking.
He's doing it right now.
No, he's doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's so, I have 3 kids. They're so different. My youngest though, he was in a Catholic school and those nuns were so sick of him. Because he's sitting there for 8 hours stuck in what he feels is like jail. He's a tall kid. He cannot sit still. He just can't, right? So they keep saying, I think Mrs. Farag, he might have ADHD. I'm like, he doesn't have ADHD. And he can't even sit through a whole meal. He's got to get up, he walks around. He just has energy. And he needs, yes. So I don't want you to mix the two. And he's containing himself for 8 hours in a classroom. Speak. He comes home, it's like the witching hour. He lets it all out, but that's been contained. Not that he has ADHD, not that he's anxious, he's full of energy and he needs healthy outlets. You need a healthy outlet, Mark. So take a walk to Bryant Park. Get yourself some hot chocolate. Questions?
Can you hear my questions, sir?
100%.
There's going to be these questions. Oh, yeah, I used to be, but not anymore. Or like, I don't, like, I used to agree with this, but not anymore.
It's how you're growing in life and the relationships that you have and experience. Yes, your attachment style can change, just like your love language can change, right? So I'm an active service member, it's something before I used to be like, father time, like, super me.
In terms of
Compatibility.
between different attachment styles, and especially if our attachment styles.
This is a good question, guys.
So compatibility between attachment styles, then if we're growing and we're changing and we're growing together, and our attachment styles keep changing, like how do we address that? How do we recognize it and grow with one another? Like, are there specific ways to, like, are there attachment styles that shouldn't be together, I guess? Or is it just a matter of like recognizing how to support one another and talk about it and.
Right? So Kareem's strengths are my weaknesses, right? He will read through a contract word by word and dot his I's and cross his T's. And like, where do I, right? He could be really annoyed with me, or he can accept that I trust him implicitly and he's back, right? So when those differences become annoyances, this is when we tear at the intimacy, the fact of the intimacy.
So how do you distinguish that though, right? Because like you meet a person and you're
Yeah.
starting to get to know one another, and certain things are annoyances in the beginning, right? And later on you decide whether or not to accept it. But like, how do you distinguish like this is something?
That I live with?
Yes.
Is there a one-size-fits-all answer?
No.
Okay. Can you guys answer that for me? Can you answer Sarah's question or give me a little insight? I can give her my opinion, but I'd love to hear from all of you. How do you distinguish if this is a good, different style to have, or if this is gonna hurt me later? We have different styles that are not complementary, and none of them are, but they're not. Anxious avoidance, right? I want us to communicate and try to figure each other out. Yes, I don't. She avoided it. Maybe just because he's married to a therapist, but he doesn't want me to try to figure him out, right? He just wants me to be able to respect how he shows up and to communicate clearly and logically what I'm doing. He does not want the psychoanalytical, whatever, he'll roll his eyes. He's a business guy, it's like cut to the chase, so, okay? So, everybody's like, oh, what's the biggest, issue in a relationship? You guys know? Universally, Coptic, non-Coptic, Muslim, white, black, doesn't matter. Biggest downfall in any relationship. Communication, not putting one another's needs ahead of your own. That's the sacrificial love that Christ taught us. When I don't put his needs ahead of my own, then that selfishness, that fallen nature takes over. Putting one another's needs ahead of your own in your significant relationship, fiance, whatever, when you get married, and you have children. And by the way, your spouse is the most important human relationship you have. That is the key to a successful path to communication. Constant work though. I don't want to put my needs ahead of this. Right? Why should I? I'm right, he's wrong. That is the path. What's the biggest problem in any relationship? Selfishness. I'm giving you science. It's not my opinion. What's the biggest downfall in most relationships? Someone said contempt, someone said pride, right? Resentment. Okay? So healthy couples have what in common? First answer. Yes, but what do? They put one another's needs ahead of their own. And what could take that all away? Unmet expectations. Give me my chocolate back. All right, any more questions? So.
Which ones don't go well together?
The ones that don't go well together are the ones that don't want to change, ones that want to change each other, the ones that think they can change each other, ones that have unmet expectations, ones that don't. There's no right or wrong. How do you show up in marriage? So what you really busy. Oh, I do that, and you got lessons, adults. Couples keep me busy, and the hardest thing about couples is trying to find feeling safe. And one always feels like I'm on side, or I'm on her side. I always say, not on your side, I'm not on your side. I'm on the side of your marriage. And what you need in your marriage, you have to put into it. Do not expect him to know. You want him to be X, Y, and Z, show it, model it. It's all up to you. So there's no right or wrong. If she takes her test and she's disorganized, but I can't take that and take them. That's not how. All right. Other questions? Sarah.
To recognize circumstances, other people, even that was in our relationship, but you have open. We need to six, I guess. So what we bring awareness.
So do you serve in Sunday school, for example?
I did.
Okay. So what do you need to do with that avoidance? First step. Remember where they are. You can't remember proving you can't. Okay, that's back to speech. Distance and closeness, different for avoidance, different for anxious. Yeah, great stage. So that's like I expect the character, check out, respect, checking you, right? Because it's on you, right? Especially with those others. Tell me about the anxious Sunday school kid. How do we recognize that? who serves Sunday school or youth or, I know, we have to start service right.
They always raise their hands and talk at.
Talk out of turn. Thank you for raising your hand. So what do you think, you have like an anxious one, like up or disorganized? Yeah. So hard to engage, right? So every time I do a talk, there's a certain church where this young lady constantly talks and interrupts and wants to know more. So the class just goes sideways, right? The way I can, the course correct is, I promise I'll talk to you about that. That's a very good question, write it on a piece of paper because I'm gonna forget. But guess what, I have to keep up. Okay. Another question. Your goal on the path to secure taxes?
I have no idea. Did you add it correctly? Someone check the math. Yeah, that's a good question.
Actually, not my height.
They are not.
As a matter of fact, they're political.
Is your highest. So you're a disorganized attacher.
Oh,
Oh, fearful. I was thinking fearful anxious. Okay.
Other was a three.
You may want to go back and read it. How were you answering? Were you answering with what you think is the path to secure attachment?
No, I-
Brutally honest. It's a good question.
I know I'm all three.
Okay.
I literally, I feel like,
You feel like you're
no, the math is question.
okay. I'll Google that for you. I'll let you know. I'll talk to you about it after. That's not what I meant.
Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Bring back my candy. Sarah?
I love it. How frequently would you recommend them take this kind of assessment?
Did you guys ever hear the Enneagram? So I wish can I?
Right behind you.
It's behind me.
J conference, 122-109.
I'm on it, I think. State conference, yeah. Perfect.
I don't offer to.
They don't see it. Not great, yeah. I'm trying to connect to my hotspot.
But I will tell you about the Enneagram. It's an excellent tool and it's free. You guys all know the punishment grades and all that. Okay, so the Enneagram.
If I had time, I would the Enneagram. Okay? It's such a
Great tool, get to know yourself, why you're avoidant, why you're anxious, right? And how you can show up and how you can fix it.
yeah. Oh, that. So it's a personality system that identifies 9 distinct
Types. Guys, this is all science, okay?
So
It is motivation, fear, and growth. I really want you guys to take it, that's your homework. The name tags will go. You're a farmer. They are driven by a need for perfection. Need helper.
motivated by a need to be fed and needed. I don't want to start it, but I just wanted to show you guys the so just so you could take a picture, okay? See it? So let's move forward knowing that we can absolutely grow. Okay? We can grow from whatever style, whatever quiz that you guys see the results. There is a way to grow in your path towards secure attachment. Mom and dad did the best that they could with the little that they had and what they knew, right? My parents, for example, immigrants, food, clothing, shelter. They didn't go past anything higher than in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When I switched from medicine to psychology, my dad's like, eh? Like, what, are you kidding me? Never understood the need. But you guys have very different circumstances, and you understand, and you can go further, and you can look inward, and you can get it. And that's evident by the questions that you're asking me. Very rich in curiosity. So know that you can grow towards whatever path you need to. Work on those triggers that bring up fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Those because those are the main two. You could do that through therapy, through doing work on yourself, coupled with prayer, coupled with a relationship with your father's confession or your mentor, whoever it is. But those go hand in hand. Orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Glory be to God. Thank you, guys.